You ever have one of those days?
One of what days?
Those days where you can't seem to get it together.
No, not really. I power through every day like a boss.
When the smallest task hits you like a 400-pound charging defensive lineman?
Yeah, no, I eat days like that for breakfast, but I also eat almonds.
Almonds?
Yeah, tiny little football-shaped power nuts with 6 grams of energy-giving protein.
Can I have a handful?
Fine. California almonds. Own your everyday, every day.
Time for an oil change? Head to Jiffy Lube. We've got you covered. We've also got you covered when it comes to oil changes, thanks to Pennzoil Synthetic Motor Oil, getting you back on the road in a jiffy. Jiffy Lube. Leave worry behind.
Good Monday morning, everybody. Hope your week is off to a good start. If you're not a kicker in the NFL, it probably is.
Oh.
Glad you're with us. Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio, and ESPN2 for the first 2 hours of the show. Mike Golic Jr., Trey Wingo here with you. Let me just start off by saying, Junior, we are not taking any more passengers on our train, on the Pat Mahomes train. Somebody sitting here was Grumpy McOldPants last week, said, I need to see a little more. Well, what about now, big boy?
We gonna say that one, huh?
Wait
Too late. The island's closed.
Exactly
You're done.
right.
You're out. We're going to consult.
You're not allowed on the Pat Mahomes Express.
We're going to consult with Louis Riddick, who is the leader. He is the governor of Pat Mahomes Island, and we're going to consult and make sure this is final. I want to close the doors. I want to shut everyone else out. You had a week to get in line. You saw the proof in the pudding this week. You're done.
That's fine. I'll continue to wait. It's okay by me. Hey, listen, the kid is playing fantastic. There's no doubt
really,
about
is
it.
he?
We're 2 games in, and I questioned last week we were 1 game in this season. I know he had to start last year, but seriously, 1 where he was given the job, it was his job. 1, and now we're 2, albeit 2 incredible games by him, and he looks really good, and man, that's a potent offense. No doubt about it. That's okay. You know what? I'll, as Zach Brown would say, I got my toes in the water and my tush in the sand. I'll hang out right there for a while. I won't go out on that island.
Why does it always go back to your tush? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Well,
Whether
it's a
you're posting oil pics, why are we always going back to your tush?
Different word he used, you know, I just didn't want to feel the need to use it.
You know what? Your toes can be in the water and your butt can be in the sand.
Yeah.
Just make sure they're not in either anywhere near Mahomes Island, because you're not allowed there.
Say whatever you want.
It's okay.
All you need to know, Pat Mahomes, 10 touchdown passes the first 2 weeks, the most ever by a quarterback through the first 2 games in NFL history.
Looks phenomenal. Absolutely looks phenomenal.
Know who you are
fun
right
to watch,
now?
too, by the way.
Yes, he is.
You know who you are right now?
Who's that?
You remember that old This is Sports Center commercial where Scott Van Pelt's walking out and he sees Tony Romo and all those people having the party in the control room and they just close the blinds on him? That's you walking by right now, sadder than hell.
It's okay.
Yeah, look, brother, he is in the zone, brought to you by AutoZone. Get in the zone, AutoZone. So we'd like to invite you into the zone, but your son says we can't.
All right,
you're out.
You're out. I'm going to hang with a guy closer to my age than Ryan Fitzpatrick, okay? I'm going to hang on his little island, okay? His little ancillary island.
I can't argue with that one either. By the way, the outfit was the best.
Oh,
Conor
it was
McGregor
money.
light. If you haven't seen it, I'm sure you have, but take a look at what Ryan Fitzpatrick wore to the post game and just embrace it all.
He looks like
just
when your
celebrate it all.
He looks like when your midlife crisis is going well.
Yeah. And you know what?
And his
is going very, very well. All right, lots to get to as we are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Let's get it started with what's trending. And speaking of trending, he did it again, and they did it again. Jacob deGrom, 3 runs on 5 hits in 7 innings, struck out 12, extending his major league record to 27 straight starts, holding an opponent to 3 or fewer runs, and the Mets lost.
Yeah,
I mean, come on.
Yeah, he got no decision. But I will say this time, the offense got it back to the point where he got no decision. He did give up 3 runs for a guy with a 1.78 ERA. What are you doing? As you mentioned, 27 straight starts there. I don't know. I still think I think Max Scherzer is going to win the NL Cy Young. I think, but this is.
Are you off that already? We were all in. We were all in last week.
You're already back.
You're off it. I'm not saying I'm off it. I'm just telling you who I don't have a vote. All I can do is say who I think they're going to vote. I think they're going to vote for Max Scherzer. I would love to see deGrom win it. Just just for the fact that I love Michael Wilbon, but I want to see his head explode.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say Michael Wilbon, I mean, does he feel more vindicated than right now? Because clearly there's something else that Jacob deGrom could have done in this game. Could have just hung tougher in this one. Could have just found a way. I'll find more sports cliches to throw at this situation.
Do whatever's necessary.
But the bottom line is this is whatever that old myth is about the guy pushing the rock up the icy hill. Yeah. That is Jacob deGrom's tenure with the New York Mets.
By the way, all of this lost in the fact that it was a Red Sox win, which really means their magic number is down to 2, but the Yankees and Red Sox play.
Seriously.
So it's really, they can clinch
their
it.
magic number.
They can clinch it.
I mean,
when they open up tomorrow.
Magic number or just a matter of time, the exact same thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, right. Exactly.
It's a magic
right.
number.
It's a magic number.
It's a magic number until that amount of time.
Yeah,
that's what makes it magic.
Well, the one thing is his ERA ballooned to 1.78. So there's an issue. There's an issue for Jacob deGrom. Is all the way up to 1.78, but it's unbelievable. I mean, what else can he do? What else?
Got to be a lot
do?
of frustration. A lot of frustration.
I was going to say, on a very personal note, as we're going to talk about a player who was frustrated enough with his time and what his play was doing to up and quit during the middle of a game, Jacob deGrom and his mental fortitude through the course of this season, as much as Mike Wilbon and others might lament the fact that it doesn't net more wins, to me is impressive just because you keep showing up and still consistently putting this on tape.
Yeah, again and again and again. And we'll see what happens again when the Red Sox play the Yankees. They win that game. Foregone conclusion we've all known for a long time will happen. The Red Sox will win the AL East. Meanwhile, how about this from Adam Wainwright?
Swing and a bouncer, third base side. Jerko backhands, throws flat-footed in time to first. Nice play on the left side by Jed Jerko. Adam Wainwright, 6 shutout innings. The veteran tremendous here tonight.
That's the call from John Boog-Shabby on ESPN Radio as Waino pitched 2-hit ball over 6 innings for his first win in 5 months. By the way, they beat the Dodgers on Sunday night. The Cardinals snapped a season-high 4-game losing streak and moved into a tie for the second NL wild card with the Dodgers.
It's getting fun. 12, 13 games left, so that's what you got, the second wild card spot, Dodgers and Cardinals in a flat-foot tie, but you have the Dodgers only half out from Colorado for the division, so this is where it's going to get fun. I always dig this part of it because you, unfortunately, unless you're controlling your own destiny, you got to do a little scoreboard watch, and that's always interesting to do.
Yeah, always interesting to keep track of that, but I have to put pause on this. Waino, huh?
Waino? That's what they call him.
I mean,
like El Fitz?
Yeah.
It's
Waino, that's his nickname.
I understand. Trey, have you ever called someone not by their nickname? Because once you get a nickname,
Juniors, I don't know. Jersey. Juniors.
Stay Wingo.
Juniors.
Juniors. Yeah, there's little Stugats in everybody, but no, I couldn't let that one go to pass. Everything you said's correct, but I was completely blinded by the fact that we've gotten into another nickname this early in the show.
Well, you try and mix things up a little.
Be who you are, Trey.
Exactly. You stay Wingo. All right, we continue. And speaking of continuing, Dwayne Wade continuing for one last ride. Announced Sunday night in a video taped early in the day that he's returning to the Miami Heat for a 16th and final NBA season.
Yeah, he got that offer from, China, to go play out there, and he said he was going to decide about what he was going to do. So he's doing the farewell tour. He's saying this is his last season, which is always interesting because then if you start to play well, you start to wonder, should it be my last season? But sounds like it'll be his last season. $2.4 million. This has to be the lowest he's ever played for. Now, I don't know.
How dare he stoop so low?
Yeah, but, it's just, guy's made a ton of money. I'm not sitting there saying he's going to be bummed because he's playing for $2.4 million. But this is going to be the all around the NBA. He's going to get the accolades everywhere, going to get the gifts everywhere as he makes his last stop at all the different NBA arenas.
Yeah, and thankfully,
good for him.
Thankfully, it's done in a Heat uniform too. We know the round robin of stops for him, going back home to Chicago, it being more than basketball, and then the basketball part not being great, so it being about basketball again. The short-lived stint as a teammate with LeBron and Cleveland for the second time in their careers. This feels right. Dwayne Wade, when it's all said and done, will probably go down as, LeBron James will technically be the best player to ever put on a Heat uniform.
Right,
but Dwayne Wade may be the most synonymous with that franchise, Wade County, and a guy who's going to get the deserved celebration for what he did for that franchise alongside Pat Riley.
I'm always curious when they do these season-long retirement tours.
Right.
Like, they stop in certain cities and people roll out gifts for the players.
You got to make it a cool gift.
Exactly.
Well, I think the one place that Derek Jeter stopped, I think he got a kayak somewhere.
Yeah.
He got a kayak
from
somebody.
Surfboard maybe built in there,
I thought that was very cool. I think you got to be, You got to go outside the box here, with a gift.
I'm looking forward to Gabrielle Union's reviews of all the gifts, too, because Gabrielle Union's one of my favorite Twitter presences as it comes to this and tangent to the sports world. Obviously, Dwayne Wade's significant other. I have a feeling we'll get some commentary if your gift's not up to snuff, so correct.
Some of her commentary.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, some of that. Some of that we can talk about.
50 Shades of Wade, baby.
Holy
Some
smokes.
of that we can't.
Yeah.
So again, get ready. I think the NBA season starts, a month from today, October 16th? Is that what it starts? I think it's close to that.
I think you're right there, yeah.
So we will we'll
that
see.
Sounds good.
We'll see. Yeah, close enough. It's the start of the doesn't the start of the NBA season seem like a floating date? Whatever.
There you go.
And
it was, just to correct now, it was a stand-up paddleboard from the Angels.
Nicely done.
It's a great gift that Derek Jeter got on his tour.
Do you think he's used it, though?
I don't know, but I'm
Good
just
core
happy.
workout. He's in Florida.
You know what you do?
mean.
You know what you do? You re-gift it.
Yeah.
All the gifts
can
you're
you
going to get.
re-gift that though? It's
Absolutely.
probably monogrammed.
Well, if they monogrammed it, obviously you can't.
Also,
Okay,
it's a gift that everyone knows that you got. It's not like some,
but
it's,
you're not going. Nobody's going to know if somebody else has his paddleboard.
If it says Derek Jeter,
No,
on it,
no,
they will.
I agree. If it's monogrammed, you can't do
if
it.
Derek Jeter gives you a paddleboard, one would probably have the sneaking suspicion that you're getting the paddleboard.
Derek Jeter did things that we never knew about, okay? And got away with them, okay?
Because we didn't know about it. We know about the paddleboard.
So he'll find a way to have that person not tell anybody. He's good at that.
Yeah, no phones. No phones more
Drop
than
your
anything
phones
else.
here.
I understand he's a married man now, right?
Yeah.
But that would have been a very weird morning after gift.
That would have been. Here's your paddleboard on the way out.
Exactly. Wow. So you're saying I need core work. Okay, good to know. And in the latest AP rankings in college football, LSU, Ed Orgeron, it's surged up to number 6 after their big win of September against a ranked team. And listen, what they did, the smiling at Orgeron gif is one of my favorites out there as they go down and take care of Auburn at Jordan-Hare.
Listen, what LSU and Auburn was facing, the first hard weeks they had and then kind of the week off and then against one another. I had picked Auburn in this one, and this was obviously a last-second win for LSU. Wow. They, Mike, are so, and this isn't any newsflash, they are so friggin' athletic. It is ridiculous how the athletes that they have on that defensive side of the ball. The downfall, unfortunately, downfall is a wrong word. They're undefeated and 6th in the country. But you know what they're all looking for, and you know what all their fans are talking about right now is where they can go and where they want this to go. Joe Burrow is going to have to get better. Joe Burrow is still in the 40% of completion percentage. He threw some good ones, no doubt about that, but not enough to where they were. Looks good right now, but where they want to go and where they want to be, that's a part of that game that's going to have to pick up. But, oh, my gosh, are they athletic. And what a great game that was.
And so now this 3-game stretch coming up is where you've really got to fine-tune those things because you've got Louisiana Tech, Ole Miss, and Florida.
Right.
All of whom now you'll be at the Swamp in Florida, but that's a team that's certainly going to be reeling in their own right. But you've got to get Joe Burrow right then because the 3-game stretch after that,
what a run.
where you go Georgia, Mississippi State, and Alabama. They're going to lose one of those games. It's just a matter of can you win the right ones in there? Can you see if you can challenge Alabama at this point? Because that's the other thing you come off this weekend.
You're not kidding.
You watch them with Tua, and it looks unfair.
Are you kidding me?
It looks like
what
this
have we
college
said all along? They've won without one, and now they got maybe the best one.
Holy
quarterback.
smokes.
What LSU does with that 3-game stretch at this point of the season will essentially decide if there's going to be 2 playoff teams from the SEC or not.
I'm
right?
with you. And one of those, Georgia. Now, they do have a week off between Mississippi State and Alabama, but Georgia, Mississippi State, and Alabama. What a run that is. So you're right. The 3 games they had before that, Burrow is just going to have to get more. And this is, again, his first year as a starter. I get it. He sat at Ohio State, transferred, won the job there at LSU. Ed Orgeron, who we're going to have on today at 8:05 Eastern, really like what he's done. No doubt about to win that job, but that's going to have to be a part of their team that's going to have to get better, that passing game.
And had to ratchet up that intensity for those 2 big ranked games in the first 3 weeks. So now gets to assess. Self-scout's going to be really important going into this stretch.
And by the way, we'll have Coach O. Ed Orgeron in just a couple hours on the show this morning.
There you go.
Looking forward to that. All right. Golic and Wingo presented by Progressive Insurance. Small business protection just got easier. With more than 30 coverage options available, Progressive has you covered. More at progressivecommercial.com. Well, the talk before the Sunday night game between the Cowboys and the Giants was from Landon Collins, the Giants safety that said, hey, listen, we'd rather have Dak beat us or try and make Dak beat us than have Zeke Elliott beat us. And Dak Prescott said, challenge accepted. And on their second play from scrimmage, challenge was extended and accepted. Hit that big bomb to Tavon Austin that really got the Cowboys going, and they hang on to win by 7 points. And afterwards, Dak talked about, hey, listen, they put it out there, and I had to back it up.
You guys play at such a high level. Is there anything that challenge accepted can actually do, or is that just, do we make more out of that than really is?
I mean, we definitely hear that. And I kind of said the challenge accepted. I said I accepted it, but I can tell you I wasn't the only one who accepted that challenge. This team accepted it. That offense accepted it. And we wanted to go out there and just show these guys.
And they did. But, you know, and it was an impressive win overall for the Cowboys because they were dominant in the first half. They didn't get a lot of points. And then that defense just took over in the second half. 6 sacks of Eli Manning as that reworked offensive line for the Giants is a problem. But did we find anything else more about this Cowboys offense? Zeke was under 100 yards. Dak, for the 9th time in 12 game, guys, didn't throw for 200 yards, and most of it came on that one big play.
I think what we've found out maybe over the weekend is this division could be up for grabs.
Yeah.
That's what maybe except for the Giants. The Giants, I listen. They just offensively, they just don't look very good. You were waiting for Odell. Odell was targeted 9 times, had 4 catches. You want that breakout game from him. It's just not happened. The running game, not there at all. We keep talking about Saquon Barkley, nickel and diamond, boom, that big run. Well, it didn't happen. 11 carries, 28 yards. His long run was 10. So that's, and I'm not putting that all on him. Remember, that's that new offensive line or a revamped offensive line in front of him as well. That team looks stagnant on the offensive side. For the Cowboys, I don't think the Cowboys look great. The defense with 6 sacks, they got after it, no doubt about it. But the offense isn't a big hitting offense. It's just not. It's not built that way. Dak's not that type of quarterback. And do you want to say Tavon Austin is now your heavy hitter, a guy that failed with the Rams, who got rid of him? They still want to live on that ground and pound to control the ball that way. So my thought is after the Philly game, losing yesterday to Tampa Bay, and Washington, everybody's sitting there at 1-1 except for the Giants at 0-2, is this could be a very interesting division as far as not thinking anybody's going to run away with it.
We talk about who won the weekend. On a side note, as you talk about the division as a larger image in this, is anyone feeling better about themselves than Carson Wentz and their importance to a football team and to a division than watching what the Eagles offense has done through the course of the first 2 weeks? As far as it pertains to this game, though, Dak Prescott, there may not have been a jump in the passing game, but I think for him and for Scott Linehan, this has been long overdue involving him more in the read option run game.
Yes.
Dak Prescott ended the game with, 7 carries?
For 45 yards, average over 6.
Yeah, so timely carries, using that read option that, for all the talk about quarterbacks in college that used it or not, Dak was actually a guy at Mississippi State where this was part of his game. It's something he can do well. And for an offensive line, we can talk about what's going on in New York with the Giants and that abysmal effort up front at certain times. But for the Cowboys, La'el Collins is still getting used to right tackle.
Right. Yep.
You've got a rookie at left guard, and you've got Joe Looney taking over for your Pro Bowler at center. That's a group that's in a bit of flux, too, trying to get going. This could be what propels that ground game and helps it get back going in the right direction, because the minute you've got a quarterback that people now recognize as a threat on the backside, Dad, you know this is a defense, it makes the backside end think, it makes the backside linebacker think, it makes everybody rock back on their heels just long enough to give Zeke the crease that he needs, and we know it doesn't have to be a big crease necessarily.
No, it doesn't. But again, problematic. Again, 64-yard touchdown pass to Tavon Austin for Dak on the 3rd play of the game. The rest of the game, he threw for 96 yards. That's a problem.
Oh, the offense still turtled.
That's a problem in this day and age.
Yeah,
Look,
it is.
It was a good win. It was a home win that the Cowboys needed. But if you're analyzing this game honestly, you're saying, hey, glad we take the win, but we still have a lot of work to do. Meanwhile, the New York Football Giants also have a lot of work to do, and Eli Manning knows it.
When you got new players and you got new scheme and new coaches, sometimes it can take a little time, especially the first game on the road, and it can take a little bit to get your rhythm and get things going. So everybody can ask and figure out from the coaches what we can do better, do differently to put us in a better position.
A block might help. 6 sacks, again, constant pressures. And the other thing, because of the offensive line issues, I mean, Saquon Barkley had 14 receptions in this game. 14 for 80 yards, which, by the way, is a small amount of yards for 14 catches. 11 carries, only 28 yards. What did we say week 1? Little, the big bopper that he finally ran 68 yards against Jacksonville. They never got the breakout play from either Odell or Saquon in this game.
Yeah, and this passing game, when you say Giant passing game, you think Odell. Get him the ball. As I said, nine targets, 4 receptions. These are all dump-offs to Saquon Barkley. Now, again, he was the first back since, Tiki in 03 to have at least 10 carries and 10 receptions in a game, and that's great. It's great to have that many receptions. The problem is you're averaging 5 yards per reception. You're just not getting enough out of those plays, and they're just swing passes or check downs depending on the play, and not enough downfield plays for them. It's just a stagnant offense, and I guess part of that could be the fact that if you can't protect Eli, Eli's got to get the ball out of his hands.
Yeah, I heard them mention a schematic advantage last night. Running a twist and the offensive line not being able to pass that off is not a schematic advantage.
No, it's not.
It's a deficiency. Yes. And it is something, and unfortunately for the Giants, because of the players involved, especially on the right side, because on the left side, you've got a rookie, second round pick in Will Hernandez trying to gel with a guy in Nate Solder who just came over. On the other side, you've got a right side that I guarantee you in week 15 is still going to be passing off twists like that.
Correct.
Those are technical deficiencies that have not been fixed in the first however many years of Eric Flowers' career that seem to persist. And so for the rest of that, for Saquon Barkley, that to me was the most impressive performance he'd had so far, because they were dumping the ball off to him and saying, fix it.
Yeah.
Just do something.
He was making guys miss.
He was
undefeated against the first tackler the entire night last night. I looked at that and said, okay, I get why they picked that guy there, because they're going to ask him to ante up like a number 2 overall pick and say, fix all our mistakes, because we're making plenty of them.
And again, the right side of that line may be unfixable this season with the way they have the personnel out there for the New York Giants.
The bad offense wasn't even the worst offense of the division yesterday. That was Washington.
By the way, no one laid an egg more than Washington after that impressive win on the road to go home and then do that.
Yeah.
And by the way, Jack Doyle is certainly questioning his relationship status with his quarterback.
How about it? Yeah.
He's certainly not the tight end in favor anymore in Indianapolis. We'll get into all of that.
Because I took Jack Doyle in my DraftKings.
Me too.
Me
too.
But you're winning.
Separate issue, but I was like, Jack, Andrew, Jack, neckbeard, help, please, together. Come back.
It's time to join the millions of people that meet happy with Zoom video conferencing. Zoom gives you flawless video, crystal clear audio, and instant sharing across any mobile, tablet, or desktop device. But the best thing about Zoom? It just works. So ditch the distractions, join the movement, and meet happy with Zoom video conferencing. Visit Zoom.us to set up your free account today. That's Zoom.us. Zoom video conferencing. Technology powers your business, and technology changes. But chances are you're still using video conferencing that was wow 10 years ago, but feels more like whoa today. Ditch the choppy video and crappy audio and get back to wow with Zoom. It's the easiest, most reliable video collaboration suite, and it costs about 1/3 of what you're probably paying now. Wow, not whoa. Visit Zoom.us to set up a free account today. That's Zoom.us. Zoom video conferencing.
Guys, let's be real. When you look good, you feel good. At the JCPenney wardrobe sale, you can get 50% off select men's suits, separate sport coats, dress pants, and accessories. Plus, select dress shirts, buy one, get one free. Raise your game with Collection by Michael Strahan. All the right looks to take your style to the next level. Also, save an extra 20% off with your JCPenney credit card and coupon, or extra 15% off with any other method of payment. Hurry in. JCPenney. Style and value for all. Pricing and coupon valid 9/13 and 9/23. Credit offer subject to credit approval. Some exclusions and restrictions apply. See store at jcp.com for coupon and details.
Golic and Wingo here with you, presented by Progressive Insurance, and our phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line on ESPN and ESPN Radio. Mike Golic Jr., Trey Wingo here with you. Why were we doing that rejoin of kickers? Because Sunday was one of the worst we had ever seen. Listen, there were 19 missed kicks, including field goals and extra points. But the amazing thing is, that wasn't the worst ever. That was 2 away from tying the most missed kicks in a single week since the extra point was moved back in 2015. Week 13, 2016, week 16, and 2017, week 16, each had 21 missed kicks.
I thought for sure
yesterday was going to be the worst.
Holy smokes. And it was in bunches.
It was bad. It was really bad in Cleveland, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Brown fans, we feel your pain. Believe me, we do. But it was also felt quite extensively in the second tie of the season. By the way, again, we said first time since 1971. That was before we had overtime.
Yes, it was. The year before.
I mean, ties were a lot more common.
Yeah, they were.
Because we didn't have overtime to decide those games. It's time for Straight Talk now, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. So Green Bay and Minnesota finish up in a 29-29 tie at Lambeau Field. And you say, oh, it's a tie. Well, both teams got to feel the same. No. If you're the Vikings, You're happy to walk out of there with a tie, even though you had a chance to win. And if you're Green Bay, you knew you had a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter at home, and you couldn't seal the deal. That's a problem.
Yeah, that definitely is a problem. I mean, we weren't even sure if Aaron Rodgers was going to start. Doesn't practice all week. He doesn't need practice all week. I love that where they said, what did he practice on Saturday?
Yeah.
Practice on Saturday. The only practice you get on Saturday is eating the correct donut that's brought into the locker room. But he came out there, and the dude is just unbelievable. It is ridiculous how good he is, and he was winning this game. You know, this is a Minnesota defense that I even said even if he had started, Aaron Rodgers started, I thought this Minnesota defense would still put too much pressure on him. He moved just well enough in that pocket to do what he normally does. And again, it's without a great running game that I don't know if they're ever going to have. But it still just solidifies if you have Aaron Rodgers, you have a chance to win every single game you're in.
9 for 9 against the blitz for 87 yards.
Crazy.
This is just what this guy does. And so you had all that. You had the defense step up in some crucial moments on that game. On the other side, for the Vikings, Kirk Cousins continues to look pretty strong, made some impressive throws of his own right. But for this game, and we all know this, and everyone who's around football long enough, and especially when you're inside a locker room, you see so many instances when they turn on the tape where you're going to say, we could have won and lost these games. And certainly, listen, Daniel Carlson for the Vikings is going to have to wear his bit as the kicker. This is unfortunately a place where they've got some history of kickers in big situations and games, sort of robbing their chances of going forward. But we know what this is going to come down to from a larger vantage point to the NFL, and all signs are going to point to that roughing the passer hit called on Clay Matthews.
Absolutely. Here was, that was Clay Matthews hit Kirk Cousins, and there was an interception.
Yes.
And the interception would have sealed the game.
Would have been a game.
And it was overturned because Clay Matthews hit the quarterback, and they say they drove him into the ground. And that was the second time in 2 weeks that Clay Matthews has been called. That happened also in the Sunday night season opener against the Bears. Afterwards, Clay was asked about the game, and let's just say he couldn't figure out the rule either.
Well, no, I know what to say. It's just I don't want to lose any more money. You know, maybe I'll go back, watch the film, see if there's anything I can change. But at the same time, I felt pretty good about that hit. You know, it's just you put in so much work, and you hate for one play to. I take a lot of responsibility with the way in which I play the game. So there's obviously not one play that defines a game, but at the same time, a little play. So I don't know. I don't know what to say, guys. I mean, it is what it is.
And by the way, Mike Pereira, who's been with us on the show a couple of times, does a great job. Former VP of officiating for the league, now does rules analysis for Fox. I thought his tweet yesterday summed it up perfectly. Many thought the new helmet rule was going to be the controversial topic of the season. Forget it. Roughing the passer by landing on top of him with most or all of your body weight has stolen the show. And he's not wrong.
No, he's not wrong. And listen, I went off on this last week.
Do it again. Froth at the mouth. Let's go.
It's almost a waste. It's like spitting into the wind. I just...
Have you ever really done that?
I have, and it doesn't work out for you. And I know a lot of people are going to bring up the Eric Kendricks hit. Minnesota Viking fans will. He got called...
on Aaron. And into the first half.
Which did lead to a field goal for the Green Bay Packers. And people are saying that was worse. I don't think it was. I mean, by the definition of landing on the quarterback, Kendricks, both of them were picture book with the shoulder into the gut and then, kind of lift a bit. But Kendricks didn't even put a hand out. His shoulder did go into the stomach and chest area of Aaron Rodgers. Now, I hate that it's a penalty now, but we've talked about this, Mike, the understanding of you want to keep these quarterbacks healthy, so you don't want to land with your full body weight on them. Okay. And he kind of did. He didn't put that hand out there. He kind of drove the shoulder into Aaron Rodgers. Begrudgingly, because that's the rule now, I'm going to say, okay, I understand the rule, even though I thought it was a great tackle. But in the NFL of today, I could almost see that one. The Clay Matthews one, and I said this about the Myles Garrett one, which the league said they got wrong the week before, and even the Carlos Dunlap one, which I thought was ridiculous last week, is while Clay Matthews did do a lift a bit, he put his hand out again. He didn't come crashing down with all his weight. He put his hand. I don't know what to tell these guys anymore. I don't know what to tell them in the split second they're tackling a quarterback. There's one thing to driving a quarterback, but it's a lot better when the quarterback's going down. And if you have to suck them in a little bit to get them to fall down, then so be it. Because if you don't, they can still throw the damn ball. So he does that, sucks him in a little bit, just what Kendricks did, and then he's going to land on them. What do you want them to do? I really want to know, NFL. What the hell do you want them to do in that split second? You want them to roll over and fall on their own shoulder and maybe hurt themselves? You would be happy about that because it wouldn't be the quarterback hurting themselves. But these guys are playing ball too. These guys are fighting week in and out every week as well, trying to get a win. They're trying to make the play, and you're taking that away from them on a ridiculous call like that.
You are spitting into the wind. Yes.
Call. I am spitting all over the mic as well. You can't explain, and we need to get somebody on from the NFL. Explain this. And I heard you, and you've already explained it, and I don't buy it. Lifting him up and landing your full body weight. He didn't land his full body weight. These guys are listening to you, NFL. They're listening. They're putting their hands out. They're not driving into the guy. They're following your stinking rules, and you're still throwing the stinking flag. Clay Matthews is right. I don't know what to tell you guys. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to tell them either, because they're going to go into meetings and they're going to go, Coach, what the hell you want me to do? And the coach is going to go, I don't know what the hell you can do. You're probably just going to get flagged. Just keep doing what you're doing, and maybe the ref won't throw the flag.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, was Straight Talk. Brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. You know what I loved about that? You started that segment by saying, well, I'm not going to get wound up.
It just got me going.
And you just got wound up again.
I'm interested because, Mike, you and I got into it a little bit. Last week. We're fine.
Clock integrity.
Got into it last week about this a little bit, where you wanted to give a little bit of time. So we're 2 weeks in. Where are we at?
They need to get better at it fast because it showed up in a marquee game in a big moment in a way that people can assign to the outcome now, because we can always say there's a lot of plays that affect the game. Marquee game, pivotal point in it. People are going to, from the NFL's perspective as a product, assign blame to this spot for the outcome of the game. So they've got to get better at it faster. We can figure out some ways how.
We will, and we'll try and do that. By the way, when we come back, the Browns, who are inventing new ways to lose, plan on losing a player today. We'll get to all of that.
Here's a little insider travel secret. There are tons of empty hotel rooms out there just waiting to be booked. That's why there's Hotel Tonight. Hotel Tonight partners with awesome hotels to help them fill their unsold rooms, which means you get incredible deals. And even though the name's Hotel Tonight, you can actually book in advance for tonight, tomorrow, and beyond. So if you want to start scoring amazing deals at incredible hotels, start using Hotel Tonight now.
Listen, he's going to struggle. Pat Mahomes did not play his rookie year, barely at all. There is no chance on God's green earth he comes in next year and lights it up. There's something amazing to me about the fact that you have a Chief team that can win now, that you're going to go now to a young quarterback. I'm a little surprised.
They'll play that one forever.
You can
play it forever.
You can book it.
You can book it.
As we bask in the glow of the sandy shores of Mahomes Island.
It's warm out here. The water's really nice.
Dad flailing around in the water.
He is making me look bad right now. Go ahead.
SportsCenter brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. When a player doesn't like a contract, they hold out, right? With Straight Talk Wireless, you never have to because there is no contract. They use the same exact 4G LTE towers as the big carriers, but for a lot less. Straight Talk Wireless, only at Walmart. Refer to terms and conditions of service at straighttalk.com.
All right, Golic and Wingo with you, ESPN Radio, ESPN2. Listen, we're loving this, and Mahomes on a record start. But you're right. Kansas City last year started 5-0 and couldn't beat the Titans at home to make the playoffs.
Yes, they did.
To win a playoff game.
So about the team, we'll see.
Yes.
But certainly about Mahomes, he is. Listen, absolutely lived up.
He is as good as advertised.
And I know we talked about him. We talked about Ryan Fitzpatrick. We talked about the co-MVP thing already 2 weeks in. Can I just quickly give some love for Michael Thomas?
Yeah.
Of the New Orleans Saints. Michael Thomas has 28
Can't
receptions.
guard Mike.
28 receptions in 2 games. That's a record. He is on pace for 224 receptions.
Yes.
The record is 143.
I like his chances of not breaking.
Probably not, but he's got a lot of leeway right now.
I will say this: when he's Keyshawn's nephew, and when he was in the draft, Keyshawn said something really interesting about Mike. He said he's not a fake number one; he's a real number one.
Yeah.
Like when the chips are down, come to me, and they certainly did that in that game against Cleveland. And we need to go there. Listen. God bless Cleveland fans. I said for years that I thought it was the hardest thing to be a Charger fan because they always found new and interesting ways to break your heart. But this year alone, I mean, obviously last year is what it is, 0-16, second time that's ever happened. But this year, in the first 2 weeks alone, they have found 2 incredible ways to not win. And Sunday, Zane Gonzalez, the kicker for the Browns, who I don't know and I don't think by the end of the day will be the kicker for the Browns, missed 3 field goals and 2 extra points. 11 points on the board in a game in which they lost by 3. And here was Zane after the game.
52-yard field goal attempt. He's missed 2. He's made 1, and he's missed an extra point. 21-18 New Orleans. Snap is back. Ball is down. He's into it. End over end. The kick is no good with 3 seconds to go. And Gonzalez, with his helmet off, takes the long walk over to the Browns bench area again.
Again, that was the call, rather, on ESPN 850 WKNR. And I will say this. Look, he had the worst day of his life, and we all saw it on a very public stage.
Yes, he did.
And I thought that what Will Lutz did, the kicker of the Saints, afterwards was very cool. He went over and just tried to pat him on the back and say, keep your head up. But there's no way around it. If you're in that situation, you got to make those kicks.
Well, yeah, and the other thing, there's no way around, and that's just, we could go through this. We could find the numbers of kickers that have been waived and changed teams throughout a season. Let me just say, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And Zane Gonzalez isn't going to have a job. I mean, that's the cold, hard reality of the business. You're out there to perform. If you don't perform at your job, you're not going to have a job. That's kind of how it works. More leeway depending on where you're drafted and all that, I understand. But for kickers, they come and go. And unfortunately, this one's going to go and another one's going to come in. It's going to happen to multiple teams throughout this season. You know, as a player, we make a lot of jokes as on the field, every down players, Mike, you and I and other players, we make a lot of jokes about kickers. And I actually felt bad for that guy yesterday. I mean, I don't normally do that, but I mean, wow, that was tough to watch, especially for a team that has struggled so much, and it was right there for them to get their first win in about 900 years, right there for them, and it doesn't happen, and it's because of one of the big reasons is a kicker. I mean, that just, Cleveland fans just have to throw their hands up and say, yeah, why not?
They do, and someone else that's throwing their hands up and saying what more can possibly go wrong is their head coach. I mean, we had the epic sound last week where Hugh Jackson couldn't quite get his head around what a tie. Just a tie. And again, Hugh Jackson after the game addressing another ridiculously awful outcome for his team and back-to-back weeks where they still have not found a way to win.
Oh, it's tough. It's tough. This one is just as tough as last week's. I mean, we've had our opportunities. We got to nail them shut. You know, again, game, kind of turned, missed some kicks, interception, they score. I mean, that's what happens in these tight games like this.
I mean, it was ridiculous. They get that 55-yarder, right? They get the 55-yarder to tie the game, and it looks like they're going to take the lead. They miss the extra point. And then I will say I thought one thing Hugh did great in that game was after, I think it was that extra point that he missed, he went over to the kicker and said, hey, stay with us. We're going to need you. And because, look, if he yells at him there or goes crazy, Gonzalez probably has no chance to even think about getting that game-winning kick. So I think Hugh did the right thing in that moment, and the result still didn't work out.
Yeah, well, I mean, we all felt badly because, like Dad said, we knew we were going to see a guy lose his job after this. Yeah. I saw people tweeting guys in the NFL reminding him that we've seen players cut before they even get to the plane, and this certainly seemed like a candidate for it. In a bigger picture sense here, this deprived us of one thing, which was an unbelievable stat if the Browns had held on to win. But the Saints are now 1-9 in weeks 1 and 2 since 2014.
That's amazing.
Which is insane to me as they limp into this season. This is not by any means some massive improvement there. But now the Browns, forget just signing a kicker, have a way bigger question to answer on a short week is what are they going to do with Baker Mayfield?
That's exactly right. They've got a Thursday night game coming up against the Jets. Is it Baker Mayfield time? What are they going to do with Josh Gordon? Again, they said they plan on releasing him today.
Yeah.
We know teams have been interested.
Yeah.
They're definitely, look, I would put a large amount of your money, Mike, on the fact that they'll have a new kicker for Thursday's game. Will they have a new starting quarterback? Will they have a new a player that they get for a wide receiver that they're giving up in Josh Gordon? There are a lot of questions going into a very short week for the Cleveland Browns as they've got to find a way, after going winless a year ago, to put 2 heartbreaking non-wins behind them the first 2 weeks of the season and figure it out in a game that is winnable again for them as they take on the Jets, who struggled.
The Jets. That's the way we all pointed to that one.
Right.
Who knows?
At this point, none of us, and none of us should look at that locked beer cooler. No. Coming up, we'll run through the good, the bag, and the ugly, the bad, from the weekend. You stay Wingo.
Guys, let's be real. When you look good, you feel good. At the JCPenney wardrobe sale, you can get 50% off select men's suits, separate sport coats, dress pants, and accessories. Plus, select dress shirts, buy one, get one free. Raise your game with Collection by Michael Strahan. All the right looks to take your style to the next level. Also, save an extra 20% off with your JCPenney credit card and coupon, or extra 15% off with any other method of payment. Hurry in. JCPenney. Style and value for all. Pricing and coupon valid 9/13 and 9/23. Credit offer subject to credit approval. Some exclusions and restrictions apply. See store at jcp.com for coupon and details.
You ever have one of those days?
One of what days?
Those days where you can't seem to get it together.
No, not really. I power through every day like a boss.
When the smallest task hits you like a 400-pound charging defensive lineman?
Yeah, no, I eat days like that for breakfast, but I also eat almonds.
Almonds?
Yeah, tiny little football-shaped power nuts with 6 grams of energy-giving protein.
Can I have a handful?
Fine. California almonds. Own your everyday, every day.
Great news. There's a quick way you can save money. Switch to Geico. Geico could help you get great coverage at a great price. And it only takes 15 minutes to see if you could save 15% or more on car insurance. Go to geico.com today and see how much you could save.
Just vibing on a Monday morning. That's what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
We're all vibing here on this Monday. Glad you're with us. Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Mike Golic Jr., Trey Wingo here with you. What an unbelievable weekend of football, both college and the NFL. And it just, it's funny, guys. The last couple of years, people have been taking their shots, and some of them deservedly so at the NFL for a bunch of different reasons. But it sure seems like 2 weeks into the 2018 season, it seems like the relationship between the country and the state of football is in a pretty good place right now.
Quarterbacks doing well is what we said going into the season could change this. And when you've got a healthy Aaron Rodgers doing the things he's doing, Andrew Luck coming back into play, as well as
good win for them, by the way.
I'd say great win for the Colts in Washington against a team with a good quarterback in their own right. And then you get the stories of Fitzpatrick and Mahomes lighting it up through the early portion of the season. I think it's got all the makings right now.
I guess that's why it leads to those calls on the defensive side to keep those guys healthy, which I agree with you, and we'll get into it more. The Clay Matthews call, the Joe Thomas tweet about maybe reviewing those type of things. We can certainly get into that, but maybe that's kind of going hand in hand. Anybody who's saying, hey, we're getting really good quarterback play, well, it's because the quarterbacks are healthy, because they're throwing flags when guys, are blowing on them too hard.
Yeah. We need to protect guys like Blake Bortles at all costs.
Hey, listen, we're an hour into the show, and we have not talked for one second yet about what went on in Duval County yesterday.
Blake deserves to double bird everybody, including me, without question. And I'm sure he's too good a guy to do it. I don't know him, but I'm sure he's not going to do it. He's going to take the high road. But a lot of people, including me, saying they don't put it on his shoulders. And listen, they have called plays last year that you could easily see they didn't want to put it on his shoulders. They put some of that game on his shoulders yesterday, and man, did they play some ball? Did he play some ball yesterday to take down the Patriots?
Mike,
good for him.
You don't even have to go back to last year. Go back to last week.
Yeah.
Remember, week 1, Giants hosting the Jags. I think the score was 20-15 at the time with just about 2 minutes to play in the game. It was a 3rd and 6. What did they do? They ran a dive play and basically trusted their defense to close out the Giants. Yesterday, Blake, 4th quarter, go finish the Patriots. We learned from our mistake in the AFC Championship game. Just start throwing dimes, and that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, shout out to Nathaniel Hackett, too, their offensive coordinator. A lot of those dimes were on wide-open throws.
Yes.
They crossing routed the Patriots.
The crossing routes, I mean, that stunned me. Again, we're getting into that game. We can certainly get more into it. The open crossing routes from the man coverage was ridiculous. And that's something normally you see New England be able to adjust to something like that, and they didn't.
And all that happened with a lot of drops from Jacksonville's wide receivers, too. So it could have been worse.
It could have been a lot. By the way, when you bring up Nathaniel Hackett, I do have to harken back to the time when he was in Buffalo, when one of his quarterbacks was Thaddeus Lewis working with Nathaniel Hackett. It sounded like a novel from 1743.
Yeah.
Thaddeus, Nathaniel, what say you, my friend?
Let's go and float this raft down the river now.
Exactly. And we've also maybe figured out Tom Brady's kryptonite. It's Florida.
Yeah.
He is 11-10 in his career as a starter on road games against those 3 Florida teams.
How about that?
And that was his first ever loss against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So mostly it's been Miami because obviously they play in the division.
But Jacksonville is that team now.
And it was 90-something degrees, and it sometimes it's not the heat, it's the humidity.
There you go.
And it was a little sticky yesterday in Duval County. Lots to get to. Let's start with what's trending. And Dak Prescott says the team accepted the challenge against the Giants, not just him. You might recall last week, Giants safety Landon Collins said the game plan, let's make sure Zeke doesn't beat us and try and make Dak beat us. And Dak made just enough throws to do just that.
Yeah, they did. Jumped out to enough of a lead that Giants just don't have the offensive firepower to be coming back. And you would think with Eli and with Odell Beckham that's exactly what you're waiting to see is those big-time plays. And in 2 weeks, we haven't seen it. We've seen a lot of dump-off passes to Saquon Barkley. Had 14 receptions in this one. To me, in the bigger picture, I look at that division now, and I think Philly's still at the top of that division, even with the loss to Tampa Bay. The no-show by the Washington offense against a Colt defense that really isn't we're not sitting here singing the praises of. And then what Dallas was able to do to the Giants. So while I still think it's Phillies, I think it could be maybe a little closer than some people think.
Yeah, the health of Carson Wentz weighs heavier on the Eagles than it maybe ever has this offseason. As big a story as that was, it feels bigger now because of what flux the division looks like it's in.
Absolutely, and we could get Carson Wentz back this week for Philadelphia. We'll have Adam Schefter in just a little bit to talk about when we might expect that. And for all of the things that the Cowboys did right, and there were a bunch. I mean, Zeke averaged 4.6, I think, per carry on only 17 carries. They got 6 sacks. The only turnover of the game was the game one that they forced. I mean, outside of a 64-yard play on the third play of the game from Dak to Tavon Austin, 96 passing yards.
Yeah, nobody was lighting it up.
96 passing yards in the rest of that game. They've got to find a way to get better.
And we keep an eye on today. We mentioned the Cleveland Browns trying to get rid of Josh Gordon. One of the landing spots they mentioned were the 49ers and the Cowboys. And I have a feeling if the Cowboys are smart, they are going, as long as there's nothing looming, we see this move being made. My immediate thought was something must be happening, a suspension we might be bracing for. But if there's not that in tow, the Cowboys seem like the organization, too, with Jerry Jones, that would love to take advantage
Someone's going
to
take a chance on this guy.
Absolutely they are. And we heard over the weekend that the 49ers had actually reached out to Cleveland. So we'll see what happens today because they're planning on releasing him, but they want to try and get a trade instead. Can Jacob deGrom trade for a new lineup? Gave up 3 runs on 5 hits in 7 innings while striking out 12 in Boston yesterday. Yea, verily extending his major league record to 27 straight starts, holding an opponent to 3 or fewer runs, according to the Elias Sports Bureau. And, of course, he got a no decision.
No decision. Actually, the offense came back and bailed him out a little bit to get that no decision, but that's been far and few between. We know the story of DeGrom with 8 wins this year and up for the possibility of the Cy Young. The most wins ever was 13. That 2 guys had 13 wins and won a Cy Young. I think the voters may go Max Scherzer here, but what a great story DeGrom has been and how frustrating it has to be when you go out and you do your job as best you can and you just don't get that team aspect of it, the backup of the rest of the team. But all he can control is what he does on the mound.
Yeah, and he's done that all year. And I've said the mental fortitude that comes along with being able to do that as individuals, we like to make baseball at times when it comes to batters versus pitchers and all that. You still, we say this all the time, when you're losing, and especially losing when you think you're playing well, coming into work is still tough. It's still not easy to go and do that, knowing no matter what I do, it seems like it's never going to be good enough for my team or for Mike Wilbon.
No, definitively not for Mike Wilbon. By the way, the Red Sox did win that game, which means their magic number is down to 2, but in reality it's 1 because they're playing the Yankees. So any combination of a Red Sox win and a Yankees loss gives them the division, which is a foregone conclusion. Guess what? They play each other starting tomorrow, so really they could wrap that thing up on Tuesday. And maybe the biggest win in the fight over the weekend is all of us, because we're going to see this again.
Yes, we are.
Canelo Alvarez took down Triple G by a majority decision, 115-113. 2 judges that way. The third judge scored it as a tie, 114-114, which means we're probably going to get a third incarnation of this fight.
I think we are. And let me tell you, this was a good fight. And it was interesting. It was Triple G took the early rounds, and then the middle, or then up until closer to the end, it was Alvarez, to the point where Triple G's corner told him, I think in the 6th or 7th round, dude, you're losing this fight. You're losing this thing. And it was interesting because it was Alvarez who was going forward, Triple G coming backward a little. Alvarez used to counterpunch, and he was taking it to Triple G. Triple G ended the fight very, very strong. Thought this one going down to the last round, and it looked like Triple G had taken that round, but enough had built up for Alvarez to get that win in a very, very close fight. A little different than what I had expected. And I think most people expected from the aggressive side of Triple G to where he was the one backing up a bit, and Alvarez was taking it to him a bit in this one. But you're right, Trey. The bottom line is we're getting another one of this, and it'll be well worth it.
Yep, I would say a big win for the tainted meat community here as they get their ultimate revenge on a process that was unkind to them, the farmers down south of the border. And for me, this fight was worth it, if for nothing else, to give me the image of Stephen A. Smith and Teddy Atlas on the SportsCenter hit after, shadow boxing with the camera, going through shadow boxing with each other. We have now also found the tag team champs of the world when it comes to covering this fight.
Yes, so that's true.
Triple G and Canelo Alvarez, part 3 is going to give us Stephen A. and Teddy Atlas part 3 in a way that I am personally thankful for.
Again, I think the first time it was a draw between Stephen A. and Teddy Atlas the first time around, too, right? So I don't know who do you think won that fight this time around, but the first time it was clearly a draw between Teddy and Stephen A. So we're going to find out who the winner is.
I'm going to be interested what the pay-per-view numbers were on this, because it was like $84, but let me tell you, I loved it. Thought it was fantastic. And you know we're going to try and get another one. I hope they were big numbers. Could you see the other news coming out?
I was just going to ask.
Floyd Mayweather said he'll come back and fight Pacquiao. Pass. Yeah. Hard pass on that one.
I have no interest.
None.
Going through that the first time around, which was still years after it should have happened, was one of the more boring fights that I've ever struggled through. There was all that controversy about Pacquiao going into it with the injured shoulder, we thought, just to get through to the payday that they both knew they were coming. There is zero chance I waste my time on that.
Yeah, no, we're moving on from that one. But I will
Triple G and Alvarez, without question.
Sign me up for part 3, absolutely. Yeah. And I would argue that the third one is going to be much bigger than either in terms of.
And you know the beautiful thing, if Triple G wins it, then they got to have one more, right? Because they had to draw each one.
And then we got to figure this thing out.
There we go.
Boxing, they know a good time when they see it. The NFL is finally just learning.
There you go. Sometimes sometimes a tie is not just the worst thing possible. All right, Golic and Wingo here with you. We do this every Monday after the weekend, and it's time to get it going. One more time for the good, the bad, and the ugly.
The good.
Oh, chef's kiss.
The bad.
Figure it out, Wingo.
And the ugly.
My nickname was Ugly Gangly.
All right, good, bad, and ugly, brought to you by State Farm. Go with the one that's here to help you life go right. Talk to an agent today at 1-800-STATE-FARM. Good, bad, and the ugly. Golic, let's start with you and the good.
I'm going good. I'm going to LSU. And again, we'll have their head coach, Ed Orgeron, at 8:05 Eastern time. What a game. I mean, again, Auburn and Florida, Auburn and LSU, 2 monster first weeks, basically off the second week, and then they meet in week 3. I said the one coming undefeated out of this is going to be looking good, and that's LSU, and they're ranked number 6 now. But in a game where they jumped out on Auburn, up 10-0, then all of a sudden, first or second drive into the third quarter, it's 21-10 Auburn at home. Now LSU is trying to come back after the quick start they had in this game. They bring her back 21-19, missed the 2-point conversion, so we'll have to get another drive, and they get it to go down for the winning field goal to do it at Auburn. It was just what an incredible game that was, and just the consistency of that LSU team to come back in that game. Being down 21-10 in Auburn in the third quarter, you had to be thinking, man, Auburn is absolutely going to finish them off and end this thing. For LSU to come back, Joe Burrow, as I said, inconsistent with his completion percentage, has some nice throws, but is going to have to be more consistent. And you mentioned the schedule. Next 3 weeks, they'll get a chance to do it before they go Georgia, Mississippi State, Alabama, 4 weeks out of those 3 because they have a bye in there. But what a great win for them on the road. They are so athletic, as I said earlier. It is ridiculous to watch these guys play, and that's why they have so many players, obviously, in the NFL.
Makes me so happy just to see Ed Orgeron happy.
Oh my gosh. That gif of Ed Orgeron smiling, walking across the field with an LSU player, it's one of the greatest things out there, man. That smile lights up a room.
Man.
And again, we're looking
what
forward
a win.
to talking to Ed. Again, he had that question before the year where a reporter asked him, hey, do you think you're better than people think you are? And he said, yes.
Yeah.
And so far, they have been.
Yes, they
really
have
good.
been.
Go Tigers.
That was the good. Junior, what's the bad?
So we got the bad. We're going to stick in college football for this one. Just an abysmal start continues for the head coaching tenure of Willie Taggart at Florida State. They get boat raced by a Syracuse team, and I was handed this note by our producer and Syracuse alum Dan Stanzik, a Syracuse team that hasn't been ranked in the top 25 since 2001.
Native,
excuse me, sorry.
Syracuse is 3-0.
Syracuse is 3-0. Dino Babers should feel great about the direction of this team right now. But the Syracuse team still has not been ranked in the top 25 since 2001, and they beat them 30-3. I mean, it just... So the Seminoles 30-7. The Seminoles have been outscored 54-10 and haven't led against FBS opponents so far this season. And for Willie Taggart, we talked about feeling bad for the kicker for the Browns because he's losing a job. Willie Taggart's not going to lose his job. They're 3 games into his tenure there. But this is a guy who's went to high school in the Bradenton area, was a Florida guy, wasn't recruited by Florida State, wanted to come back here because this place meant something to him, and it could not be off to a worse start right now.
You know, our former colleague Danny Cannell, an FSU alum obviously, put something on Twitter yesterday basically telling Florida State fans, relax, don't turn on this team, you know, don't post mean things about the players, they're all trying, this is as bad as it's going to get. And he may be right, but I wanted to say, how do we know this is as bad as it's going to get right now for Florida State? Can we really say that? But can we really say we know that it's bottomed out?
They're only favored in 3 of the remaining 9 games right now this season. The last time Florida State finished under 500 on the field, they had to vacate wins from a couple seasons in the mid-2000s. But the last time they finished under 500 on the field was 1976 in Bobby Bowden's first season in Tallahassee.
Unbelievable. So that is bad. And now we're going to get to the ugly over the weekend. And quite frankly, it's something I never heard of before. I can never remember this happening, especially at the NFL level. Not only did the Bills lose a game and they got a little banged up in the process, Vontae Davis started the game at cornerback and then pulled himself out of the game at halftime to retire. He retired from football in a game in which he started at the NFL level at the cornerback for Buffalo, and then said, according to Sean McDermott, pulled himself out of the game. He communicated to us that he was done. McDermott was provided no other details except to say bluntly no when asked if Davis was injured. So in the middle of a game, Mike, in the middle of a game, Vontae Davis decided, I'm going to retire, and that's how he walks away from the NFL.
You know, this is, and I was trying when I heard this, I was trying to think from his side of it, thinking, is there any way that I can look at this and understand it? You know, he had that long, Mike, I heard you read it this morning, this long.
We've got it here, yeah.
Where basically the first 2 paragraphs could be any football player of any time going through sacrifices and injuries and surgeries. Everybody does that. And I was trying to think, okay, is there a way? Is there a way for me to look at that and justify it? And man, I can't. I can't even fathom. And this is a 10-year guy. This guy's in his 10th. It's not like a 1-year guy. It's a 10-year guy. For him to just walk away from your teammates, to just quit like that, I can't get past it. I can't get past, because what have we always talked about? The locker room. What do you miss the most out of the game? The locker room, the guys. You're playing for one another. You prepare each week to play for your teammate, for your team. And to walk out on them. I really did, Mike. I tried hard to look at it from his vantage point in today's world of safety and if there's head injuries and how you want to walk away and all that. I said, but I just can't. I can't justify a guy quitting on his team at halftime.
Look, here's the crux of the statement, okay? This is what Vontae Davis did. Quote, I hold myself to a standard. Mentally, I always expect myself to play at a high level, but physically, I know today that isn't possible, and I had an honest moment with myself. While I was on the field, I just didn't feel right, and I told the coaches, I'm not feeling like myself. He was credited with 1 tackle. On some level, I get it. If you're not in it, you're out of it. You know what I mean? People always say when you're thinking about retirement, you're already retired. But I don't know if I've ever heard of this before. In the middle of a game, Kyle Williams was asked about it, the nose tackle, who came back for one last year for the Buffalo Bills, and said, I think the only thing to say is he's where he needs to be right now. And asked where that was, he responded, that's not here, point blank and simple. And our friend Lorenzo Alexander, who has been done some great stuff and sort of helped work out the new punt rules and the kickoff returns on the NFL, basically sort of was trying to grab his senses of what happened after the game when saying a guy retired at halftime.
I found out going in the second half of the game. Coming out, they said he's not coming out, he retired. So, what? Yep, that's it. So, who said what? Who said he? Sean said that? Guys on the sideline. I mean, guys heard about it and said that he wasn't coming back out. Never have seen it ever. Pop Warner, high school, college, pros, never heard of it, never seen it. and it's just completely disrespectful.
I think that small what from the reporter in the room spoke for the collective football consciousness that was all looking at this. And, Dad, I'm with you. I tried to search because a lot like the situation in Pittsburgh where we saw an offensive line speak out about a running back, so the position already didn't match up, and then speak about a guy's money in a way that was so abnormal, I said, there has to be something else here. And I did the same thing with this situation. A guy retiring at halftime, like, was there something so internally wrong here that he just couldn't do it? But you come back to that at the end of the day. One of the statements I heard, and I think it was Louis Riddick that's used it around here before, is you're a guy's football character. And guys in this locker room might know Vontae Davis, might know a lot of things about him personally, but this is a huge mark on your football character as far as the way a guy like this is going to be remembered, who has played a lot of football. When he was
mostly
in Indy,
with the Colts,
was one of the better DBs in the league for a while, and was a guy we talked about pretty favorably. And now this is the way that you're going to be remembered. So you can release this nice statement, and you can do all these things on the back end and talk about how you're thankful for your time, but at the end of the day, this becomes your career-defining moment in a way that is entirely avoidable. That's the other thing. The dismount in this, if you truly believe that you're done, fake an injury and get to the end of the game. Make this decision after the game where at least it's midweek and your team has some time to adjust and not you just full-on bailing in the face of your team.
That's the thing here, right? If you're doing this as you had to be thinking about it before the game began. Right? I mean, we have to assume that it just maybe it did.
This doesn't just snap into your head.
Right.
So, yeah, there have to be thinking about it, and there are certainly ways to handle that. Walking out on your teammates is not one. And, Mike, to your point, you're right. For a guy, this was his 10th season. This is what he's going to be remembered for. He went into a locker room at halftime and basically said, I quit.
Yeah.
I'm done. Even to all his teammates, because man, I mean, that's the lifeblood of that locker room, man. That's what you do. You play for that guy next to you. And you play for one another. I mean, there are individual goals. I get it. And guys try and get paid individually. I get it. Man, the blood, the sweat, and the tears in that sport and what you do for one another. And to just say, guys, I'm bailing on you. Yeah. It's just a tough call.
Well, what did we love about last week? What Aaron Rodgers said after what you do for your teammates, right?
Yeah.
You do what it takes. That's what we're paid to do. We do this. What are you willing to give up for your teammates to try and come up with a win? And that's why he came back after being carted off in the first half. So that was what we saw week one. The polar opposite is what we saw week two in Buffalo.
It is the wild, wild west right now. We give you a little bit of everything in the NFL. I had a friend of mine who's more in the NBA world text me and say, you football guys have been hiding all the good stuff out from us. A dude just retired at halftime. Yeah. This already made my 2018.
It is bizarre, and it's probably going to continue to be more bizarre because coming up next, what's going to happen with Josh Gordon? Who's going to go out on that limb? How many kickers are losing and getting jobs today? We'll talk to the man who has the answers, DJ Schefter. Chef.
Love scoring amazing hotel deals? Then you've got to use Hotel Tonight. Forget scrolling through never-ending lists of hotels. Hotel Tonight shows you a select list of incredible deals at hotels you actually want to stay at. And even though the name's Hotel Tonight, you can actually book these sweet deals in advance for tonight, tomorrow, and beyond. Want to get those deals? Yeah, you do. Something better just came along. Hotel Tonight.
It's a busy time in the NFL, especially for the fans. There's couches to fluff, bandwagon jerseys to buy, and most importantly, getting the perfect snack lineup ready. If you're going to watch football as hard as it deserves to be watched, you're going to need California almonds. With 6 grams of energy-giving protein, you'll have the stamina you need for the anxious sweats, happy jumps, and of course, the angry convulsing. Plus, they're portable, in case you need some fresh air and a screaming break. Visit almonds.com and own every day of the season with California almonds.
Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio, ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And before we go any further, I think we need to acknowledge the tweet of the weekend. And it was from our own NFL insider, Louis Riddick, who just tweeted out this. Ha, 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 ha. That was it. Ha, 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 ha. When he saw the performance by one Patrick Mahomes, who he had been all in on.
Yes, he has.
Before the start of the season. Mm-hmm. In other words, the anti-Mike Golic.
And stood behind it, by the way, and drafted Patrick Mahomes in the War Room League.
Yes, he's really. And he's doing very well.
I would say he is.
And those dulcet tones, by the way, are none other than our other NFL insider extraordinaire, Adam Schefter, the host of the Adam Schefter podcast, and everything else that he does, NBA sideline reporter. He gives us a straight talk, Brought to you by Trade Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Let's start with the Browns and Josh Gordon. You broke the news that he injured his hamstring at a photo shoot for a non-team sponsored event on Friday, and that was the straw that broke the camel's back for the team.
Well, let's be very clear. Again, he went to this shoot for whatever it was, and I was told it was some sort of clothing line, but nobody wanted to say over the weekend what company it was because they don't want to implicate the company as having any connection as to why Josh Gordon no longer will be with the Browns. Whatever it was, he was doing some kind of commercial shoot on Friday, and he had a hamstring injury to start the season, but he irritated it there to the point where on Saturday...
Irritated at this shoot?
Yes. Okay. When he came in Saturday, they felt like he couldn't play on Sunday against the Saints. And so they made the decision to cut him. And they didn't cut him because he strained or irritated his hamstring at the shoot. And I don't want you to mistake that for the real truth. I think ultimately in the end is this was like the final little straw on a very, very shaky foundation where basically the Browns general manager John Dorsey wants to change the culture there. He was brought in to change the culture. And he felt like keeping Josh Gordon around was enabling him and not allowing him to do what he was brought in to do. This was a move that was designed to help continue the change of culture that they've tried to implement in Cleveland. That is the biggest reason that they let go of Josh Gordon, or at least plan to, until these teams began calling right after the word came out. And there were teams that thought that the Browns intentionally announced on Saturday night that we planned to release him on Monday so they could let the beginning begin and auction Josh Gordon off.
All right, so where are we, as Adam Schefter is with us in studio? Where are we on the teams that are interested in Josh Gordon, and how do you think they will get a trade done before he hits the open market?
My guess is yes. I think there are other teams that think that they're going to be able to trade him, and they think it'll be for a conditional pick. In other words, and I'm making this up, you're on the roster for 8 games, the 5 goes to a 4. You play a full season, the 4 goes to a 3. And I'm making up conditions as we come along. It'll be up to the teams and the Browns today or tomorrow to agree to those conditions. But the Browns had said that they plan to release him on Monday. It doesn't mean that they have to trade him today. It's just that I think most people believe that everybody wants to move on, and the sooner he can get to a new team, the better it is for everybody. But we know he's not going to be a part of the Browns. They're parting ways with him. Now we find out whether they could agree to a trade with another team. And by the way, there's a lot at stake financially for Josh Gordon. Because if he's traded to a team, he's traded to the Golic and Wingos.
Yes.
We'll
take him.
You assume his contract, which is $790,000 in base salary this season, with the right to tender him after this year as a restricted free agent. So next year, Josh Gordon could make about $1.9 million. So for 2 years, you could have Josh Gordon services, and there's a lot that comes along with that, for $2.7 million. So basically, by giving a conditional pick to the Browns today, you get Josh Gordon almost for free.
Right.
Almost for free. If the Browns were to cut him and Josh Gordon were to go sign with the Golic and Wingos, you would...
Again, we'll take him.
You would give him, I would imagine, an incentive-laden contract that would give him the chance to earn millions and millions and millions of dollars. So I know Josh Gordon is most concerned with winding up in the right spot, a place that'll support him and allow him to grow and hopefully stay on the straight and narrow and become the type of pro that everybody wants him to be.
But
there's a lot of money if he gets cut.
Correct.
A lot of money at stake.
So, Adam, we know San Francisco has engaged. What other teams out there? What is the market for him?
Well, again, the 2 teams that he was hoping to wind up with, and I think he's a fit for both, are the 49ers and the Dallas Cowboys. And that is what he was thinking yesterday. Now, I think that there's minimal interest on both sides. My understanding is I don't know that the Cowboys are overly interested, if interested at all. So that would seem to knock them out. As great a need as the Cowboys would seem to have at that position, and as much as he might be able to help them, I think they probably have taken on enough situations in Dallas over the years that they'd rather not have another one. The 49ers, I think, are just monitoring the situation And we'll see whether or not there's another team that steps up and meets the Browns' price and gives them something today.
I feel like that's the rest of the organization talking Jerry Jones down off the ledge on this one, because that seems like a move that would be right in line with a guy that enjoys taking risks in that area when they can have that sort of net gain. Speaking of something that may not be as risky, but was certainly another one of the big stories of the weekend, I know, Adam, the number one name that came up as we watched in a historic weekend when it came to missed field goals and missed extra points was Dan Bailey. As Trey said, the second most accurate kicker of all time. And it seemed to be going into this week, it wouldn't just be where, it would be whoever he wanted. And you had a great note about Dan Bailey, this, what he's already been looking at as far as coming off this weekend.
Well, Dan Bailey already has turned down 4 offers.
4.
4.
This before this weekend.
Correct. Coming into this weekend, Dan Bailey had turned down 4 offers from teams. So now, and I don't know which teams made the offers, but I was just told he had turned down 4 offers. 4 attractive offers, I might add. So you would assume today that Minnesota would have interest.
Yes, you would.
Oh, yeah.
You would assume that Cleveland would have interest.
Mm-hmm.
The Rams, I would think, probably would wind up going back to Sam Hinken, who was in camp with them, the former Finken.
Yeah.
Finken, mispronounced names, who's in camp with them. So there's going to be some teams that make some kicking moves, I would imagine, coming up here.
Yes.
And there are some decent kickers on the Cairo Santos, the former Chief kicker, is healthy. Yeah. He's ready to kick right now. There's some decent kickers out there. We'll see. Roberto Aguayo bounced around the league and was impressive with the Chargers this summer before they released him in favor of Caleb Sturgis, who missed a kick in the first week. So we could see some kicking action if that floats your boat, Trey.
Support for the Golic and Wingo Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying homes for a minute. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a whole lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about it. They're calling it the power buying process, and here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. You win either way. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Golic. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data record. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS ConsumerAccess.org number 3030.
Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio, ESPN2. So obviously a lot of conversation about what happened with Vontae Davis. Right. He was a starter in the game Sunday, made a tackle, and then at halftime decided to retire in the middle of a game, which I'd never heard before.
Never.
And a lot of people, Mike, have found some gold on the old Twitter machine.
Pulled up some tweets chronologically. I'll do the one from, this is August of 2011. This from Vontae Davis. The road to success is hard. That's why a lot of people quit on that road. Don't you be one of them. Keep going.
All right, sir.
Mm-hmm. Follow that up with a tweet from December 26, 2013, hashtag Vontae Corner. I can only assume he was answering some questions. Said, the people who succeed in life are those who don't quit, in all caps.
Oh,
and again, we were both, I know, Mike, you said the same thing. We were trying to figure out, Adam, a reason, trying to say, okay, let's think of it from his side, and neither one of us can come up. It doesn't sound like a lot of people who played can come up with a good reason to understand how somebody could walk into a locker room at halftime and quit football, quit on their team, and leave.
Well, he released a statement after the game.
Oh, yeah, we saw that.
We saw it, yeah.
So, I mean, that's his version of the events. I mean, from our perspective, all he could say is, you guys played. Do you ever see anybody up and leaving at halftime? I've never seen that. I've never heard of that ever.
Quit the sport. Not just leave the game, leave the sport.
At halftime. Like, I can't even make it through these next 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I can't even.
He started. That's the thing. He started. It wasn't like he was coming in on special teams or he didn't play. He started the game. He was part of the game plan.
And by halftime, he retired.
Oh, my gosh.
Walked out.
That's how, if you're the Chargers, you're saying, we beat that team so bad, dude, just up and quit the sport.
Yeah, the sport.
How about it?
Look, on one level, if your heart's not in it, I get it. But you can't tell me you had an epiphany at halftime or during the first. You had to be thinking about this before you lined up.
I'm not going to justify it.
Right.
I'm just going to say it's obviously emotional, right, for these guys, and they're getting their butts kicked, and he probably obviously been thinking about it, and I just can't tolerate. I can't understand. I can't do this anymore.
I don't get it. I don't get it. It will be interesting to see if he's off for a little bit and says he wants to try and come back.
Good luck with that
one. So. Well, we'll get more into that one, but while we have
he's made a lot of money through the years too, isn't he?
Yeah, he has. Yeah, he has. He was a Pro Bowler with the
3 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of him not starting anymore, how about starting quarterbacks? Carson Wentz, could we possibly see him back on the field? And then when is Josh Rosen close to getting out there with how bad the Cardinals are?
Well, it's a good question. And I would imagine we're going to hear Doug Peterson today or tomorrow announce that Carson Wentz is going to be cleared for contact, and I would imagine we're going to see Carson Wentz start on Sunday against the Indianapolis Colts. Now, I don't know who he's going to be throwing the football to. That's a whole other issue.
Right.
With all the injuries they have after that game, there are a lot of players that got banged up. But he's been ready physically. They're just being careful because...
Smart.
Exactly. They know his long-term value, and they know the stats and the data on players who come back from injuries that severe after 9 months. They don't want to rush him back. So I think we'll see him next week. And I think if you're the Cardinals and you get shut out like that, and you've played 2 bad games back-to-back, I think you got to start thinking about Josh Rosen, right? That's a conversation they have to have this week, don't you think?
Absolutely. I mean, look, I'm not sure a team has looked worse through the first 2 weeks than. I mean, they've been non-competitive. I mean, they were never in the game with the Rams, and they got shellacked by Washington at home in the season opener. So, if this is what we're getting from 2 weeks with this offense as it's constructed. I mean, you took a guy in the top 10 for a reason here in Josh Rosen, right?
Yeah, right. So I don't know what they're waiting for. And by the way, they thought coming into the season that he looked great, but Bradford shined during training camp, looked great, and so they didn't feel the need to do it. Plus, I'd have to see, but I think for every week that they don't start Bradford, they would save $500,000 or so. Right. So you save money by not starting him. And if you're 0-2, why do you want to keep throwing that money down the drain? Basically.
It seems to make all the sense in the world. So going from a team who playing poorly might force them into a new quarterback to a team in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers who have outperformed all expectations. How do you balance what Ryan Fitzpatrick is doing right now with knowing in a couple weeks Jameis Winston is going to come off suspension and you've got the long-term future potentially of the franchise to balance?
Well, they'd much rather deal with these problems than the problems
Fair point. Yes.
They thought, many people thought they were going to have once Ryan Fitzpatrick took over for the suspended Jameis Winston. This is a great situation for the Bucs. And interestingly enough, they're on Monday Night Football next week, a week from tonight, at home against Pittsburgh.
Right.
So Howard Katz, the NFL schedule maker, got that one right here for the Buccaneers. Who would have thought that the Buccaneers in Week 3 would have been a great draw? And if Ryan Fitzpatrick plays that way in that game, and they have a short week against Chicago, it's hard to imagine that they're going to let Jameis Winston start the next week. You just let this guy keep going as long as he's playing like this. And by the way, I'll also tell you this. I was told he didn't have a bad day at training camp, that he looked this way all through the summer.
Fitzpatrick.
Well,
we've seen this from him before, right? That's the problem.
Seen the good, the bad, and the ugly from him.
Literally, exactly. Yeah. And by the way, that beard is as good as it gets right now.
Yes, it is.
But the question with Ryan is always, how long can he do this? Because
But he's done it all through the summer this year. Now, listen, I understand exactly what you're saying, and we don't know at any point on Monday night he could go out and throw 4 or 5 picks against the Steelers.
He's thrown 6 in a game before.
But by the way, again, the Steelers team that Patrick Mahomes lit up yesterday.
Yes, he did.
At home, you're going back in Tampa. Place is going to be jumping on Monday night next week. So as long as he's playing well, I think you just keep riding that train, the Fitz train.
All right, we got a minute left in this segment, so we've covered Carson Wentz, and we've covered what may or may not happen with Fitzmagic. It's a short week for Cleveland. Any chance we see Baker Mayfield this Thursday against the Jets?
I don't think so. What would make you think that we would? Because basically, if they had a kicker, they could be 2-0 right now.
Tyrod played pretty well in this one. Much better than
I don't think we're asking the Baker Mayfield question right now. And
well, actually, I just did. So I know. I mean, technically, I did ask the question, but
you can ask it.
Yeah.
I just don't think we're going anywhere with that right now. And, at some point, and you knew that would happen in Cleveland once they started losing. That question will come. But they want to keep Baker on the bench, and they want to let him grow. Look what happened with Patrick Mahomes on the bench for 15 games last year.
Well,
working out okay right now.
If that's the standard, everybody should be on the bench for 15 games because that dude is lighting up, to quote my good friend Louis Riddick, ha 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 ha.
Happy 23rd birthday, Patrick
There you
Mahomes.
go.
Patrick Mahomes, happy birthday. Adam, always a
Thanks,
pleasure
Adam.
having
Thanks,
you on the
guys.
show. All right, coming up, a conference championship rematch, plus we'll talk to a prime candidate who won the weekend.
Guys, let's be real. When you look good, you feel good. At the JCPenney wardrobe sale, you can get 50% off select men's suits, separate sport coats, dress pants, and accessories. Plus, select dress shirts, buy one, get one free. Raise your game with Collection by Michael Strahan. All the right looks to take your